What is up, y'all? You're back with the technical foul here. It's a nice Sunday evening, rather, excuse me, right after the bracket just got announced. And we'll get to that in our second show tonight. But first, we're going to give you Mississippi State sports updates and conference tournament reactions. You're here with JP on my right
What's up, guys?
and Sanders on my left.
What's up?
How are y'all's spring breaks, guys?
Fantastic. Watched a lot of basketball and did not move from the couch.
Mine was pretty good. I went to the SEC tournament. Boots were on the ground in Nashville. Also got to spend some time at home. And I made some money gambling. So it was a good week.
How many units you up?
I was up 3 units, but right now I'm sitting on there's 10 parlays that are like $1 into 1,000, 2,000 that are sitting there that have legs. They'll need the NBA championship, NHL, stuff like that. So
Well,
we're gonna have a very interesting summer.
Your
But-
Dallas Mavericks one does not have legs, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that one crashed out.
This
I
sounds-
cashed that out for 6 cents.
It sounds like a summer show to me. A little recap of JP's leg status.
Oh yeah, sure. As they get closer, we can definitely talk about it.
JP's year in betting. All right, we got 2 shows to do tonight. It's going to take a while, so let's just get right into it. JP, you want to hit us with MSU sports updates?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start with women's softball. They defeated Alabama this weekend in Tuscaloosa. This is the first time ever that State has won a series at Alabama. Alabama obviously has been a powerhouse in softball for decades, and this is just a huge win for the Dogs. They won that series 2-1, winning the first game and the third game this evening. Women's basketball, the last time we talked, they were in the SEC tournament. They lost to the school up north. Bracket was just revealed an hour ago. They will face California in the first round as the 9 seed in the 8 versus 9 game. They are in USC's region, so they'll fly out to Los Angeles. We do not know what time that game is going to be, but we do know that game is going to be next Saturday. Next Saturday, the Bulldogs will play California in USC's basketball stadium. Men's baseball, we swept Queens. We then won 2 midweek games against Old Dominion Nichols, and then got swept by the Longhorns this weekend. Horns down,
Always
obviously.
downs.
But story of the weekend was leaving runners on base. The doubleheader this afternoon didn't help because we were in those tight games through 7 innings, and maybe we could have pulled them out if we got the full 9 innings. Sanders, you were the only one that was actually in the building. Any thoughts on the men's baseball this weekend?
Yeah, honestly, my biggest takeaway is I think we have 6 losses now, and I think in all 6 losses we've been like 1 swing away in the last inning. I know in at least 3 or 4 of them we've had the runners on base and the winning run at the plate and just couldn't get it done. So the team is very close, and that makes it hurt more, honestly. Like Jack said, I think you said it was baseball is, in your opinion, the most painful sport to be a fan of and watch.
It'll crush your heart like no other. On a regular basis, that is, a buzzer beater or something in March will do it to you, but it's lethal.
Yeah, a hard start to SEC play. They'll start 0-3. Never want to really be behind the 8 ball when you play those 30 games in the SEC. To start 0-3, obviously not a good start for the Dogs. They play next week in Norman against Oklahoma for a chance to get bounce back and hopefully win a series there on the road. Men's basketball, the last time we saw them, they played in the SEC tournament. They defeated LSU. I was there. I can confirm that they did kick LSU's ass by 30 points. Even Guy Chol got in there and got some minutes, which was very cool. Any reaction to the first game before we get into the second game?
I just kind of walked away. I think LSU is the worst team in the SEC, even worse than South Carolina. I don't think South Carolina is that bad. LSU just can't knock down open shots. Y'all gave them some. They didn't want to hit them. Guy Chol minutes is always fun. I know you're probably the biggest Guy Chol fan on Mississippi State's campus.
Big time Guy Chol guy.
So, but, I mean, it was a game that y'all really need to win because if State doesn't win that one, you're feeling really bad going into tournament.
Yeah, LSU is a top 25 in terms of volume for three-point shooting, but they're the 13th worst three-point shooting team in the country. So just one of those teams that for some reason they like to shoot a lot, and they just haven't hit any threes this year. The Dogs lost a heartbreaker to Arkansas before the ACC tournament. Melendez missed a game winner with 1.7 seconds left after a questionable foul call, to say the least, to send Arkansas to the free throw line to take the lead. And then they would lose to Missouri and a heartbreaker. That was definitely a really rough game to see. There was a lot of stretches where we really could have taken advantage of the Missouri Tigers. They were not playing well whatsoever that day, and really neither were we. I believe both teams were, below 30% from three, if not 25% from three. The Dogs have lost 4 straight clutch games to teams around their talent level. So now that thing I was talking about, the gritty clutch wins, we're now 8-7 in clutch games. So obviously
Tough
not
slide.
a good thing to see for the NCAA tournament coming up. The Dogs are going to play against Baylor.
There it
Scott
is.
Drew. Sorry. They'll finish as an 8 seed for the second consecutive year. They'll play Baylor in the first round in Raleigh. They're matched up with Duke. That's so crazy. Duke's, for one, we'll get into the bracket in the second episode, but Duke's matchups aren't going to be very difficult. Plus, they get to play in Raleigh, literally, right down the road from their campus. But if the Dogs were to beat Scott Drew and VJ Edgecombe, they would get to play Cooper Flag in the second round. Any other reactions to state basketball?
No, I really thought you had a chance in the Missouri game. You got an off game from Caleb Grill, Missouri's best shooter, but just couldn't get it done.
Yeah, that guy was left open, wide open, 5 different times, and he missed all 5 of them. I think he was 1 for 7 from 3. When you have the best three-point shooter in the country do something like that, you got to take advantage of it, and the Dogs did not do so.
What is he shooting this season?
He was, at some point, it was 49%.
Oh, dang.
He was about 50% in SEC play at one
yeah.
point, I'm pretty sure. I'm sure it's dropped. I've not checked it in a couple games. But high volume, high percentage. Tough looks, a lot of them, too, honestly. Off the bounce, coming off screen.
He's an exceptional shooter. Having seen him warm up twice before games, there's something about the arc that he puts on the ball. It's just perfect. Like it's not too low, it's not too high. It's just the perfect arc, and his form just looks effortless. It's really, as a shooter myself, it was really a treat to get to watch him warm up twice and to even play. To get an off game for him, you got to take advantage of that.
When you shoot, what part of the rim are you looking at? Or, what are you aiming for? Do you
I'm
have
always looking at, so you got the things that the net is hanging on, the little Vs.
Yep.
I'm looking at whatever V is on the front of the rim.
Okay. I was just curious, because Caleb Grill said he looks at the front of the rim, and someone was saying that's pretty unique. But maybe it's not. Maybe that
I
person's
look
wrong.
right at the front of the rim.
Okay.
So you and him are like cut from the same cloth then.
I mean, y'all shoot basically the same percent from 3. So
His 3-point percentage is down to 40%, but at one
Tough.
point he was like 49%.
40% is still very good. I don't want to dog on that. Is that it? Any more MSU sports updates you have?
That is everything for MSU sports.
All right, we'll go ahead and get rolling into conference tournament reactions and just kind of going over them. We'll start with the SEC. Florida got the dub there, beating Tennessee in the final game, 86-77. So congrats to Sanders. That was your favorite to win the SEC tournament. Me and JP both had Auburn, and I want to start there. I know we're going to get into the tournament breakdown in just a minute, but do we have any concern at all about Auburn losing 3 of their last 4, not necessarily playing their best basketball? Do we think that is an indication of anything going into the tournament?
I'm very concerned. My mom, avid listener of the show, texted me as soon as Auburn lost and was like, "It looks like you were right," and maybe I am. We'll see. There's still a lot of basketball left to be played in the tournament, but yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty concerning when Auburn, was the best team in the country by far, both on the court, like eye test, and then also by every metric all season, and then kind of just either took the foot off the gas pedal or just ran out of gas and can't control it at this point. But it doesn't look good for Auburn right now. And they do, I think personally a matchup against Louisville in the second round could be challenging. ACC runner-up.
Alabama State. If they
Watch
win that
out.
first game.
Well, Alabama State. I mean, we'll talk about it later. But yeah, I am personally concerned about the way Duke finished this season.
Auburn.
Auburn. Thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you're
Yeah, I agree. I watched the entirety of that School Up North Auburn game, and they were lucky to escape with that victory. I think it's just I get it. Baker Mazzara is a player that's a huge part of the team. He's a huge part of the nucleus, and it was similar with KD Johnson, but he's just not efficient enough. He's not a good enough scorer. We clearly see that he's got kind of now it's the way it would be termed is the Draymond effect. He commits hard fouls for no reason. He's always chirping for no real reason. It's kind of one of those things like if you put Chad Baker Mazzara on LSU, would he be talking this much? Would he be as cool as people are saying?
Probably not.
Probably not. I get why Bruce plays him. He's a veteran, and he's got that veteran presence. He's hit big shots this season in SEC games for sure, but it's just like, play Kelly or play Pettiford more minutes than I would play Baker Mazzara personally, especially down the stretch of games. I'm concerned about Auburn for sure. When we talked about the tournament like predictions for the SEC tournament, I was saying that I picked Auburn to win it, but I did think that they were hitting a point where they might get potentially fatigued. Sanders theorized this in that episode.
He was all over it apparently.
Yeah, and he was correct in this case.
We'll get to ACC later. I was almost all over.
Nope.
too.
Almost. That
I
we're
was this close.
We'll get there in a
This
second,
close.
but that would have been a lucky prediction. So yeah, I mean, it's just it comes down to this. It's so hard to play your best basketball for month after month. So there may just not really be any particular reason that Auburn just isn't necessarily playing like that. Other than you can't hold that edge for forever. So it'd be unfortunate if they kind of flame out for them. Personally, really dislike Auburn. Wouldn't hate it too much, but we'll see. We'll talk about them in the tournament later in the second episode. But enough of that. Let's talk about Florida, the winners of this tournament. They looked really good, really, really good. Going into the SEC tournament, I also picked Auburn, but I thought Florida was the second best team in this conference. Right now, they're playing like the best team in the conference. I don't really think that's much of a question. A very, very deep team. They can score. Their front court rotation is crazy with Condon and Hanladen and Howe and Chinaloo. So, they're clicking right now. What are y'all's thoughts on Florida?
Exceptional team. They're the trio of guards that they have is very, very dangerous. Walter Clayton is just one of those. He's one of those players where it doesn't seem like he all the time is like in control of the game. Like when you watch him play, you don't necessarily feel like, oh, this guy's about to just hit a step back three on someone. And his shooting form is not perfect by any means, yet it just goes in all the time. He's a prolific scorer. He's really, in my opinion, the highlight of the team. He's really taken a big step from what he was playing last year, and I think it's a huge reason Florida is as dominant as they are.
I agree. I'm pretty sure Todd Golden said it himself. He was basically like, last year we couldn't guard anyone, and we fixed that this year. And I agree. Elijah Martin was a huge pickup in that regard. A great on-ball defender. Gets a lot of steals, stuff like that. A bigger guard, but also Walter Clayton has stepped up his defense a little bit this year. Not a great defender, but last year it was pretty abysmal. So their offense really isn't much different than last year's, but it's really the defense that has come along to match the offense.
Yeah, I've just been super impressed with Florida's coaching. I don't know a lot about the logistics and the strategy of basketball, but from some of the highlights I've seen about the way he game manages and adjusts in game, Florida's coach seems very impressive. Also, if you've got a dude that can cut the net off the rim after you win without the ladder, I think that's like a huge recipe for success.
Doesn't play though.
Yeah,
he doesn't play. He's a walk-on.
He hasn't played a single minute this entire
Yeah,
season.
but
Not
his
a walk-on.
presence.
You
said a walk-on? Did you
He's
say?
not a walk-on. I apologize.
Oh.
That's when he redshirted. I misspoke.
Okay, I was like,
7-9 walk-on would be crazy.
Yeah, just couldn't find a spot anywhere.
But yeah, I mean, they just very tough field in the SEC. Obviously, I mean, we just figured out 14 teams in the tournament, which is insane. And Florida really didn't make it look too difficult running the table here.
Yeah, and
Was there a single game, single digits, or did they win by double digits in every round?
I mean, they won by 9.
they won by 9 in the championship.
Okay. I
Every
didn't get
other
to
was
watch
double
that today,
digits.
but
But yeah, SEC dominance. We'll see if it stands as a tournament. The 14th team in the standings is an 8 seed, Oklahoma, in the tournament. We're talking just actually 9.
I was saying, they 8 or
a
9.
9 seed. That's dominance. This is not even like teams that are. I mean, Texas barely got in. They'll be an 11 seed. But
Shouldn't
that
have
is-
got in.
Yeah,
I mean,
could
if
debate-
only
we could
they
debate
had
that
one
in
more
next
loss.
episode.
Yeah, facts.
they had one
I
more
can't
loss.
complain.
Um,
Shouldn't buried them. Any other? Well, before I say that, any other things about Florida? What were you gonna say, JP?
Oh, I was just gonna move on to what we thought our favorite game of
I was
that
about to say
tournament.
any
was.
other things that stood out.
No, I do have a favorite game. We didn't coordinate, so if we all have the favorite game, it's gonna be kind of sad.
That's totally fine. It's gonna be honest.
I'm gonna pick a game that I was at, so it's gonna be
Okay,
Okay,
in the first.
can I go?
you can kick it off, Sandy.
All right, yes.
You're pretty eager here, so
Kentucky, Oklahoma.
that's mine too. So.
Excellent game.
It's crazy, and I got to watch it with my younger brother, avid Kentucky fan, for no reason in a family.
To be
full of
different, he's a
state fans.
contrarian.
Yes, he woke up one day when he was about 6 and said, "I like blue and I like cats." He is now a Kentucky fan.
Good
He is-
logic. I
he
mean,
is
you
a
can't fault it.
Detroit Tigers fan, avid Detroit Tigers fan, and then Detroit Lions fan as well. So he likes the color blue and cats. But that Kentucky game was crazy. Otega Owe, for him to do what he did for the second time. So for those of you who haven't followed college basketball all season, Otega Owe, this is his first year at Kentucky. He spent the previous 2 years at Oklahoma. This season, earlier in the season, they played at Oklahoma, and Otega Owe set a career high record in points against his former team and hit a buzzer beater to win it.
Mhm.
And then this past week, Otega Owe scored the second most points in his career against his former team, and then once again hit a buzzer beater. But also, you see the end. You kind of forget Oklahoma was down 11 with less than 2 minutes left.
Shouldn't have even had to hit the shot to win.
It was, I mean, they had a player score 11 points. Jeremiah Fear scored 11 points in the final 2 minutes, minute and 40 seconds, to make that last buzzer beater shot even a possibility. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was a blast. Jeremiah Fears one is just a ton of fun to watch. He's so fast. Helps him get to the rim because he's not really that big, but you just cannot stay in front of him. He's slippery. His acceleration is nuts. He can still shoot. He does it all. He's the whole reason Oklahoma's in the tournament, to be honest. I'm interested to see if he leaves and goes pro, or if he comes back for one more year because he's young. Am I not mistaken? He reclassified or something like that.
Yes.
Newly 18.
Mhm.
But yeah,
17?
no,
Seven.
no Ryan Williams here.
Just very young, 18.
But yeah, watching Kentucky choke, always pretty fun. Obviously, they did win, but there was just a brief moment there. It was like, this is chaos. This is glorious. Capped off an amazing 4-game run, honestly, from the SEC tournament. All good games, all close games. The State-Missouri game was probably the worst.
Sure.
I
Was
mean,
that-
y'all are States fans, so y'all may not agree. But I mean, double overtime for
Oh,
Texas,
it was
Texas
definitely the
A&M.
worst. Yeah.
Arkansas Ole Miss was really close. Shamdula game-winning 3.
Yeah.
And then the buzzer beater for Otega Owe. That's a great slate of hoops.
Mhm.
And the best game of the tournament, in my opinion, capped it off. So, JP, you're different. What's your
Yeah,
favorite
I
game?
mean, I watched the Oklahoma Kentucky game. That was obviously in bad spirits after State had just lost. I avoided the alcohol from the bars in Broadway to drown my tears away.
proud of you?
And
Stay strong.
I felt bad for the group that was performing on the stage because there was a TV in that bar, and everybody was facing the other direction, looking at the TV, watching the end of this game. The dude was singing Tennessee Whiskey while this game was closing out. That was awful management down the stretch, and managing a press by Kentucky. For them to even to be in that spot was very, very bad. And that Owe buzzer beater will remind us of the Michigan buzzer beater that we'll talk about when we get to the Big Ten tournament. Just running full speed down the court. It's hard to get in front of a guy when he's going that fast and not foul. And so he's able to get not only is he able to get to his spot, he got all the way there and was able to finish with his left hand.
It reminds me, who is the dude that beat us last year, Kentucky, in the hump?
Oh, Reed Shepard.
The same kind of like you hit like because Oklahoma just scored, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're trying to get back on defense, and that's a fast guy with the ball is just coming down, and you kind of realize, oh, like I can't get in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no stopping him.
Let
Like
him
it
turn the
felt
corner.
very similar.
Yeah, that's very fair.
And then I got to watch the Texas A&M game. Got to watch the first half, and then we had to go line up so we could get in the student section. So I watched the second half. Which, by the way, why did y'all have to go to double overtime? We had to sit there for so long to get into the stadium.
I'm sorry. If there's anything Buzz Williams loves, it's a very, very long game, whether it's just a regulation game or not.
And that was an exceptional game, but it was one of those games where A&M had a chance to win it, and then they choked it, and Texas had a chance to win it, and they choked it, and then Texas finally pulled it out. But my favorite game was the Arkansas School Up North game. That was my second day there in Nashville, very first game of the day. That was a really, really fun game. The crowd was electric, which, by the way, I want to apologize to Kentucky fans. I know last week I was saying that, outside of Tennessee, Auburn's probably going to have the most people there. Kentucky had the most people there by far.
That was an oversight for sure.
Yeah, and that
Big
was
Blue Nation
that was a
traveled.
bad oversight by me. I guess I was thinking Calipari not being there would affect their travel. It did not. But Calipari was there, and you had the entire Kentucky crowd behind Old Miss the entire game, and that was just really, really fun to see. And Arkansas, it always felt like they were down by like 10 the entire game, but they were down by just 4 or 2, and they finally get it and tie the game. They hit a bunch of big shots down the stretch, and then, Padula pulls up. They give him too much space, and when you have a white guy who can shoot the basketball, you give him too much space, he's going to knock it down, and he does it. And that was an electric buzzer beater to see, even though it is, the team that I hate most in all of sports. It was a very electric game. Seeing the crowd cheering against Arkansas was really, really cool to see because there weren't a lot of Arkansas fans there. It was kind of a whole stadium up against Calipari, one of the best coaches in Kentucky history.
Yeah, I've personally enjoyed the Calipari heel turn. Kind of, it's been a very fun. What am I trying to say? Very fun experience, narrative, both work. Did y'all see the quote he had where it's like, after an 0-5 start, they put us in the coffin. They just forgot the nails or something like that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
great line.
Fire.
I didn't catch a ton of that game. But what I saw was very good. And then I believe, was that Wednesday?
that was Thursday.
Thursday. You're right. Okay, that was the day.
That started off the best day of college basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah, my fault. I was at work, sadly, so I had to keep going and doing stuff.
That's tough.
But I'm sure it was a good time.
Big Ten?
Yeah, unless you have anything to add about that game, let's roll to the Big Ten.
No, I unfortunately did not get to watch that game either. So, honestly, for the best, because it hurt me to see him hit that shot. So
I wasn't too happy about it.
I'd rather just forget that it happened personally because I don't like seeing that kind of success.
Sure. All right, Big Ten, another good tournament. Michigan-Wisconsin final, a matchup in the final. I don't really know if many people would have seen this coming, considering neither team was really hot coming into the tournament, especially Michigan. Everyone was like, "Oh, Michigan, they've fallen off. They can't stop turning the ball over. Like, easy out in March for whoever gets them. That's a good draw." And then out of nowhere, they just rip off.
Yeah, they had lost 3 of their last 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and they rip off 3 wins against Purdue, Maryland, and Wisconsin to get to win the whole thing. Big wins. They love winning close games, I will say. It feels like every game they win, it's down to the wire, and they find a way to pull through. Wisconsin, good run for them. Couldn't get it done. I really thought they were going to win the final game. Didn't really think Michigan had the juice for most of that game, but Michigan got it done, so props to them. Thoughts on the final game?
I did not get to watch it. That was today, right?
Yeah, you were at work.
So I was
That's fair.
working baseball all day today. I did see it went down to the wire. There was some foul calls and stuff, so it was apparently a very good game. Sad I missed it, but Michigan is they're good for sure.
Yeah,
And it was tough for Jack, his favorite. I mean,
Was Wisconsin. I was right there.
This close.
Very
I do
close.
feel very validated in my thoughts, considering my whole thing was like John Tonje. He's that guy. And I feel like we got the perfect John Tonje experience between the Michigan State game in the semifinals and the finals against Michigan. dropped 32 against Michigan State in the semifinals, was amazing. He's the reason they won that game. I believe he was the guy that stripped the ball on the final 3-pointer, I believe, the Michigan State attempt, which was clean. Kind of looked like a foul because it was awkward, but he got all ball. And then was cold, couldn't knock down a shot in the Michigan game, and they ended up losing. So Wisconsin really will go as far as John Tonje can take them, in my opinion. Not that they don't have other good players, but when he's on, it just takes them to the next level. I wish I could have got it done so I could have said I was right. But also, my boy Jackson Carter is a huge Michigan fan, so happy for him.
Go Big Blue.
Michigan is really fun to watch. The Vlad Golden, Danny Wolf duo is dynamic.
Yeah.
Is a matchup nightmare.
Is this a first-year head coach for them?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
we should Dusty May. Shout out Dusty May. Great turnaround. Juwan Howard lit the Michigan program on fire. And
after Jim Boeheim left for the Cavs job and then got fired within a year.
didn't he say something he shouldn't have or something like that?
Yeah.
Tough.
Can you tell us what he said? No, I'm kidding.
I-
No.
No,
is
just
it?
keep rolling. Keep rolling.
Jim Boeheim, is that the right name?
that sounds
We'll check that.
that sounds right.
We'll just keep
No,
keep
it's
on
not.
rolling.
Syracuse
It's the Syracuse guy. That's awkward. I'm blanking on the name now.
I'll pull it up. Keep talking,
Okay,
Jack.
cool. So yeah, I am interested to see if Michigan can roll this success into the tournament. Also, I haven't mentioned him yet, but Trey Donaldson, a great couple games for him. The buzzer beater against Maryland goes the whole length of the court. No one gets in front of him. I don't know what Maryland was doing, to be honest, but shout out to him. He is
John Boeheim.
That's what it is. John Boeheim,
Close.
old Michigan coach. Yeah, I don't know. Maryland's game plan there was kind of interesting, but it's like we said, if guy gets full head of steam going downhill,
Yep.
he's really hard to get in front of. Derek Queen did not slide his feet very well.
It was one of those scenarios. Derek Queen makes the free throw to give Maryland the 1-point lead, and because Michigan didn't have any timeouts, they just inbounded immediately.
No one
And
was
Maryland decides to press, and Derek Queen is now up on top of the press. He's the second line of the press when normally he would be the guy all the way back.
Yeah.
And so you lose your rim protection, and you put a 5 who's super slow right there. And so dude's just able to get right around him and get straight to the hoop. I do have to give him credit. That was an incredible finish with the offhand left hand going at that kind of speed. That's not easy to do, especially in a big moment like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Michigan, very impressive. Those are 3 big wins. Those wins are over teams that are higher than them in the NCAA tournament. 4-seed Purdue, 4-seed Maryland, and a 3-seed Wisconsin. Michigan coming in as a 5-seed. So those are very, very impressive wins. Wisconsin just kind of felt like they ran out of gas. That was their 4th game in 4 days.
Yeah.
Just weren't able to get the scoring output that they expected.
I think it'll be fine come March, though, personally.
Yeah.
Or not, it is March, but come March Madness, the big tournament.
Again, we'll discuss that in the next episode.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to juggle it, to be honest, but we'll get there. Another thing I want to point out from Michigan, Roddy Gale, one of their guards that plays big minutes, has been an absolute liability from 3. He did not play a ton in the second game, in the final, was a little banged up and stuff, but LJ Kaysen came in and hit a couple big shots, so that'd be something I keep an eye on for them, is if they could find somebody to kind of replace Roddy Gale's minutes, because it's gotten to the point you don't really have to guard him from 3, and that is a big hindrance to an offense. But yeah, we'll go favorite game of the tournament.
Mhm.
I'm going to be honest, sadly, due to bad weather in Mississippi, I did not get to watch any of the semifinal games except highlights because, well, the TV channel was on emergency weather
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Unlucky.
Which
it happens.
Yeah. Prayers out to anybody that dealt with that this
Yeah.
weekend.
For sure. But I'll go and start with my favorite game of the tournament, and it's kind of an unorthodox one. Iowa, Illinois.
Sure.
Was just a ton of fun. Neither team wanted to play defense. Illinois scored a ton of points.
Yeah, 200 points scored in that game.
Yep. And Fred McCaffrey, Iowa head coach, got ejected in his last game as Iowa head coach, as it got announced the following morning after their loss that he was getting fired. It was just a ton of fun. I was watching with my boy Andrew McBride, and it just seemed like every time we flipped the channel back to that game, it was someone was hitting a crazy 3 or a tough mid-range. It was a blast. Electric, up and down the court. Good basketball.
Yeah, Illinois is one of those teams that can score a ton of points, which is why I picked them as a dark horse It was just unfortunate that they run into my favorite Maryland in the second round. But yeah, that was a very, very fun game. Sanders, favorite game?
I got nothing. I did not get to. I was with Jack, so once again, we didn't get to watch a lot of Big Ten basketball.
Sure.
And it was tough for me. My favorite and dark horse were both knocked out in their first games. I will say my favorite Purdue went up 6-0 against Michigan.
Purdue won a game.
Purdue won a game?
They beat USC.
Yes.
Oh, my bad. Well, you can tell how much Big Ten basketball.
No, you're good.
I was busy with SEC basketball, but
USC possibly should have won that game. Purdue maybe gets the best whistle in the country, and I was out and about in that game. Eric Musselman was not happy. I am happy for our sake that USC didn't win because we might have seen Eric Musselman take his shirt off, and that is a scary sight. But what do you got for favorite game, JP?
I was able to watch the semifinal game. I went with Michigan and Maryland. I had 4 screens going. I was playing
Ball watcher right there.
I was playing Siege on one screen. I was watching the tornadoes. I had at that point it had passed us, and it was on into Alabama. And my girlfriend was staying at a lake in the middle of Alabama, so I was making sure that she was safe, because she wasn't watching the weather for whatever reason.
Smart.
Thankfully, everything avoided her, and she was fine. But I was watching that. I was playing Siege, and then I was watching Michigan, Maryland, and I also had Boise State, Colorado State, which was a very good game.
Yeah.
Colorado State winning that in a big way. But Michigan, Maryland, my favorite game of this tournament. Just for the last 5 minutes, it was very, very fun. Last 5 minutes, Maryland able to take the lead at the end off the 2 free throws from Queen, after a bad foul by Michigan. And then, run the full court and a beautiful finish there at the end. That was a very, very fun game. I watched it on streameast.com.
Shout out
to
Streamies.
avoid.
Is that allowed?
I thought it got taken down.
No, it's back up.
Oh, it's back up?
Huge.
It's back up. So is meth streams. So
They weren't out for long. It was like a NBA Centel situation then.
Yeah, no. StreamEast is back, and they were there in a huge way as CBS was being blocked by the weather reporters. So that was my favorite game of the tournament. Any other reactions to the Big Ten tournament?
No, I mean, good overall, but we'll go and move on to the Big 12.
Worst court out of all the tournaments?
Yeah,
I
we
would
can
say.
start with that. The court was horrendous.
We all picked this one, right? We all picked Houston.
No, we can get into that in a minute because okay.
That's
well,
tough.
Just
Tough
look.
scenes.
We'll get there in a second.
Jack,
No,
one,
no. Hey,
Jack
hey.
1-4. Me and JP 1 out of 4, 1-3, and then me and JP both went 2-2. So
Correct.
Unlucky for me.
huge week for us.
Houston, the 1 seed, won it all. Not much drama there in regards to them, to be honest. Beat Arizona in the final. Arizona, a good run for them, but couldn't finish it off. We'll go and talk about the elephant in the room. My favorite was Iowa State, and they got bounced in the 3rd round to BYU. Sanders' dark horse
Yep.
somehow, even though they were the 4 seed.
Yeah, was I the higher seed?
You were the higher seed. My
And I
favorite was the lower seed.
Yeah. So you're. That's
Unfortunately,
iconic. That's iconic.
Iowa State can't get healthy. They were down 2 starters in that game, and it just got announced today that Keyshawn Gilbert is not going to play again the rest of this year. So a huge blow for them. We're going to need Curtis Jones to step up even more. Though he had a great game against BYU. Was it like 21 points in a 7-minute stretch or something insane like that? But BYU is a very good team, and so they knocked my boys out. Y'all both had Houston, boring, but y'all were correct, got the job done. So congrats.
Yeah, boring is the correct word. They play a very boring style of basketball. It's very, very slow. As we've said, they're bottom 5 pace in the country.
Very grindy, but it works. And they've
Well, it's one of those things. If they play so efficiently at this slow pace that if they are able to get a lead late down the stretch, which
like getting
didn't
it back.
necessarily happen in the Arizona game in the championship, if a 10-point lead for them feels like a 30-point lead. And in this version of basketball that we play in, where the 3-point shot is so imperative, we've seen in the NBA like 25-point leads or the new 10-point lead. Houston, because they play at such a slow pace, it counteracts that. Now the 10-point lead is a 25-point lead.
Yeah.
It's very, very dangerous to go down to Houston as the game dwindles down. You don't want to be down 10 to Houston with 8 minutes left. You really don't feel like you have a lot of time. Now Arizona was able to come back they were down 10 with I think 8 minutes left, and were able to come back and tie the game. But Houston was able to hit some big shots down the stretch. Caleb Love, unclutch, missed a few big threes.
The Caleb Love experience is always an interesting one, whichever Caleb Love you're going to get. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Houston's rolling. They have been one of the most consistent programs in the country over the past couple years. I think they have the most wins.
3 straight 1 seeds.
In the past, 6 years, something
they have
like that.
7 conference losses since they joined the Big 12.
Yeah, it was a big question when Houston was joining, was like, are they going to be able to compete with Kansas and Baylor
LOL.
and all of these teams now? And
They passed
now,
with flying
obviously,
colors.
Kansas and Baylor have, taken a step back, but they haven't wasted their time. They've came in and just dominated the conference. And like I said, 3 straight 1 seeds in their first 3 years with the Big 12.
Yeah.
Impressive.
We can anything more on Houston? And I'm sure we'll talk about them more later in the second episode.
They would be my favorite game, the Houston Arizona. That was my favorite game of the tournament. That was a really, really fun game.
It was also my favorite game of the tournament. I honestly think this was the worst tournament out of the Big Four conferences.
Yeah.
Not to dog on it, but just nothing too crazy. We had a couple good games here and there.
Yeah, they were,
but just
not very good games.
Houston. Sanders said it himself. It was if it doesn't rhyme with Houston or something like that, it's a dark
if it
horse.
doesn't start with H and end with Houston, they're a dark horse.
And it kind of felt that way. I mean, Arizona did make it close, but this team is just so consistent.
Yeah, I guess BYU is a dark horse, having lost to Houston by 20. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
I mean, they all are. Everyone was a dark
which
dark horse.
20 would then be a 50-point lead. So it's a pretty bad loss.
Crazy. Do you have a favorite game of this tournament?
The Arizona Texas Tech game was probably the most interesting for me, just because
Fair.
that was a pretty crazy upset. I feel like to see in a conference tournament.
Sure.
I mean, I definitely expected Texas Tech to win, but it is the 2-3 seed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, just I don't know. Zoom out and look at the bigger picture. You just have an unranked team beating a top 10 team.
Absolutely.
Texas Tech has been on a tear, kind of coming into
Texas-
the Big 12 tournament.
The only
Tech
team
was-
that beat Houston.
True.
Yep.
They were missing McMillan, one of their better scorers, but it did get announced he'll be back for the tournament. He'll be back this weekend.
That's
so that's
huge.
good news. It was said, I think he will play. We will see how much, but for the 14 seed, it should be enough.
Oh, clearly BYU over Iowa State was my favorite game. Watching that with you was so fun because it was a close game. It kind of went down to the wire. And then when it ended, I was just like, I felt very validated.
That's fair. I'll still hang my. That's a crazy dark horse
Big
pick,
upset
but
for the dark horse.
Were
I mean-
they probably were favored going into that game. I would not know for sure, but they probably were favored considering Iowa State was down a couple starters.
Let me see if I can find it.
While you're
Y'all just
looking for it,
go.
we're going to go and transition over to the last of the 4 big
Nope, I got it.
conferences.
Sorry.
You got it.
Iowa State was favored by 3.5.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So BYU won and covered.
Shout out.
And
shout out the dark
smashed
horse.
the over-under. Over-under was 146. Final score was 188.
Jeez.
Yeah, I
mean,
forgot how high scoring.
I feel like that game definitely played into BYU's style a lot more than Iowa State. So I'm not. And with that in mind, I'm not surprised BYU won.
That is very surprising. Because I saw maybe that TikTok was on something else. There was
we're doing
there was a
TikToks
guy.
in
There's
the
a guy on
podcast now?
TikTok that he has this conspiracy that that some regionals in the NCAA tournament will overinflate the basketballs, and when that happens, the under hits like at 80% rate. And I believe the Big 12 was the culprit of that this weekend, where
He thought they overinflated.
they had overinflated the basketballs, and we were seeing just big bounces off the rim and such.
Interesting.
And just not getting the soft touch. So yeah, for that to be 40 points over the over under line, that's impressive.
Doesn't matter if you're pure.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
also true.
Just hit nylon. All right, ACC tournament. Some drama here actually. With the fact
This is probably some of my favorite moments. I'm so excited for
that your favorite moment is that Cooper Flag got hurt. which
No,
is
okay,
crazy.
yeah.
Wild.
Crazy.
It's up there. No, not that he got hurt.
Cooper Flag goes down early in the Georgia Tech game. Georgia Tech has a double-digit lead. It's kind of a huge oh-no moment. Cooper Flag goes back into the locker room in the wheelchair, which is just a precautionary measure, but it doesn't look great optics-wise regardless. We don't know. Is he even going to be able to play next week? let alone to finish out this tournament.
Mhm.
Duke storms back, wins that game.
Yeah, they were down 26-12.
Yeah.
At one point, and then they go on a huge run. They end up taking the lead like 2 minutes into the second half.
Georgia Tech fought to keep it close. I think lost by 8
Yep.
at the end of the day. Going into the next round, it's round 3 of Duke UNC. UNC desperately needs this one to get into the tournament, or so we thought. Halftime, not even a game.
Mhm.
Cooper Flagg's not playing.
We turned it off. We said we're done with this.
We were watching a different game.
I don't blame you.
Cooper Flagg's not playing. It's been announced he's not going to play the rest of the tournament, which I agree with the decision. Next thing we know, it's a close game. North Carolina stormed all the way back. I forget what player it was, but Brody was shooting free throws. Misses the front end. We're like, uh-oh. Cashes the second free throw to tie the game, or so we thought. Turns out there was a lane violation, which is just brutal. Never thought I'd see something like that. They end up walking away with a 3-point win. Yeah, 74-71.
Jalen Withers commits the violation. He was the same guy that pulled a crazy 3 against Alabama last year in the NCAA tournament with like 60 with a minute left. He pulls a 3 for no reason. This guy was like a 25% free shooter.
Cost him a couple
he
games.
misses the 3, and then Alabama was able to sneak out and win that game and make it all the way to the Final Four. Yeah, he commits. I don't know what he was doing. It didn't really make any sense to me.
I think he was hoping to fake out the guy and go around the backside and just stumbled.
It's just
Not unnecessary. You should never do it.
and especially for him, he was not necessarily a big player. I don't
No.
think he should be.
Trust your guy to hit the free
Yeah,
throw and get back on defense. You didn't need the board. I mean, if he missed, you did, but it wasn't like it was an intentional miss situation. But anyway, Duke squeaks out of there with a win, and then plays Louisville in the final. And it was a pretty close game there, but they got it done. So Duke was the ACC champion. Not too surprising. It's what me and JP had. Sanders had Clemson, which we'll get to in a second. But it definitely was a lot closer than we thought, and especially no Cooper Flagg. It does make sense that was the case. But do we think that this was good for Duke in the long run to have these couple of battles without Cooper Flagg? Or do we think that it doesn't really matter?
I think it certainly helps. I don't
Yeah.
think it can hurt you in that case. For other guys to have to step up, but I think a big thing. It's Duke. Like they've got everybody's impressive that's on their roster at all times, unless it's Grayson Allen. That guy's bad. But other than that, these guys can play basketball. Most of them McDonald's All-Americans. Highly recruited freshmen. We saw that with like the Zion, Cam Reddish, RJ Barrett team. It didn't matter if Zion's not having a good time. Cam Reddish can be huge. RJ Barrett can be huge. This is no different with this Duke team with Knuppel and others. Flagg is a substantial part of why they're as dominant as they are. But in a weaker ACC, I don't think it was really even going to be much of a doubt that this team was going to play well without him.
I think Duke probably has the deepest 8-man rotation in the country. Something I do want to point out as well, talking about Cooper Flagg's injury. Malik Brown, is that his name?
Believe so.
Okay, I know. I think that's right.
I can double check you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Also missed the semifinal and finals, and I don't know what his status is for the tournament, but he is arguably Duke's most versatile defender. Cooper Flagg's the best defender, but his ability to switch on bigs and guards, he's a nightmare defensively. Can knock down a 3 or 2 as well, get a couple points. But he's someone they definitely could use for the tournament. So having him healthy would be ideal. Sanders, it looked like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was just gonna say you were talking about the depth of like the guys coming off the bench there. The 2 freshmen, Malawak and Knuppel, combined for 42 points. After Cooper Flagg went down with injury, so it's just kind of crazy that you could lose your best player and arguably the best player in the country, and have 2 18, 19-year-old freshmen step up and score 42 points in an ACC tournament. So yeah, I think that it definitely did not hurt them at all. I mean, they won, so clearly. But I do think it could be beneficial for them in the long run to see that their identity is not entirely in Cooper Flagg. And then hopefully he comes back and they're better because of learning to play other guys getting time.
Yeah. And I do think, right, that even though this was clearly Cooper Flag's team, we've seen other people step up in other games before. It's not like it was a true overshadowing. We've seen Con Knipple have big moments before. Kamon Malawak has been a force down low all season. But it is still, it's a whole different story when the buffer of Cooper Flag isn't there. Let's talk about Louisville now. I don't want to disregard them. They won 2 games to get to the final. Tried hard. It was a close game. It really was. Chucky Hepburn's good. He won ACC Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know if I agree with that one, but they weren't going to give Cooper Flag all the awards, I guess. But they had a crazy run. I mean, they had a fight back. They were down double digits in the second half against Stanford. Tie the game, put up a shot. Stanford seemingly gets the rebound. Their guy can't hold on to it, tries to pass it out. It gets deflected, falls right to Chucky Hepburn, and he puts up a little, I don't even know what, 10-foot, 12,
17-footer.
17-footer.
It was a mid-range jumper.
Yeah, cashes it as the buzzer goes off. They win by 2 and advance to play Clemson, who was Sanders' favorite. Couldn't even make the finals. That's all I'm going to say. You said they're going to challenge Duke, and you had to worry about Louisville. You looked too far ahead. But that was a good game. They win that one, and then they lose to Duke. Any thoughts on that team?
On Louisville or Clemson?
Louisville. We'll let Sanders talk about Clemson in a second, but Clemson didn't win, so I want to focus on kind of the teams in the finals. We can talk about Clemson in the next episode if we want.
Not a ton of thoughts for Louisville. I do have to give them credit for fighting and having a good season. They obviously
great season for Pat Kelsey.
Yeah, weren't very good last year, and ever since Pitino left, it's really been a struggle for that team to stay productive, and in an ACC that's obviously down. It was impressive to see them make a run to the ACC championship and be second seeded in the ACC.
First year making the semis in the ACC tournament?
I think so.
Because they've just not been in the ACC for that long.
For Louisville?
For Louisville, yeah.
Really?
They joined in the 2014-2015 season, I believe,
Were
somewhere
they Big
around
East
there.
before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, Chucky Hepburn and Terrence Edwards is great guard duo. They're kind of the driving force of that team. I'm kind of surprised they got an 8 seed in the big dance. I thought they'd be a little higher, especially considering this run. But kind of conflicting reports and things that you don't know.
Creighton too.
It's kind of tough if the conference tournament really matters for seeding or not. Creighton is a rough matchup. I'm interested to see what they can do because they really haven't done much outside the ACC. They just ran the table in the ACC, which kudos to them, still very impressive, but it definitely was a down year.
It was impressive to run the ACC, but like we saw with a team like Duke dominated the ACC.
Yeah, it's
That's
a different level for sure.
Sanders, Clemson?
Yeah, Clemson was...
The Tigers?
It hurt. It hurt watching both of my teams lose. I mean,
I was
Georgia
watching
Tech,
very joyfully, personally.
Yeah, I'm sure you were.
Big old
but
smile on my face.
I did not see that one coming. I really thought that they had it. I mean, they had the ball down 2 with about 30 seconds left and just kind of got stuffed at the rim, which was really unfortunate.
Possible foul.
Yeah, it was unfortunate for it to end like that. The run of a century, you could say. I mean, I was on a tear. I almost had the Georgia Tech pick, almost had the Clemson pick. I mean, those almost.
Close only counts in horseshoes.
Yeah,
and hand
Georgia
grenades.
Tech pick was looking good. We were pulling into Nashville. Mont and I were about to park, and I don't remember if it was you or Jackson texted Duke ? And we immediately checked the score and it was like, okay, Georgia Tech looking good. I had a Georgia Tech ACC tournament future. I was like, okay, maybe I get a little cash out here, a little double up. I was like $1 to win 300 or something.
Didn't happen.
But
that's a lot of units.
Like I said, it was 26-12 through I think 14 minutes, and then in those next 2.5 minutes, Duke had scored 12 points.
Yeah.
Again, it was just impressive for them.
That's all I really have. I don't know if y'all have any interest in hitting up the Big East tournament for a second.
Sure,
about
I can.
Hold on. Favorite game? We have to kind of.
Oh, I apologize.
yeah,
I skipped favorite
Do
game.
you
That's
have a
what I mean.
favorite game? Because I know if you aren't thinking about it, I know what your favorite game is. Just for the last play. Come on, Jack. You're with me. You're with me.
Louisville Stanford?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not watching that game. It's an amazing game of basketball. There's so many other on. I think I saw someone reference it in a group chat. Me and my friend flip to it right as Louisville's shot goes up and it misses. They get the rebound. Chucky Hepburn hits the game winner. That's the only play I saw of that game. The only play.
Was
I
that
wasn't
not the
locked
one
in.
where he got it and threw it out?
What do you mean got and threw it out?
Where-
Yeah.
yeah.
That was,
Where he went up, gets the rebound, and accidentally throws it back to the other team.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it gets
Yeah, I feel like
passed
you didn't
around.
explain that enough. Like,
No, I
you
didn't
gotta
forget.
elaborate
I did early on. I did
how bad.
when I talked about it earlier, I did. It was rough. I will say it looks like he straight up passed it to him. The
Mhm.
ball was jarred loose.
Yeah.
He still needs to have stronger hands,
Yes.
but it really looked like he just straight up passed it to the other team for the game winner.
Yeah.
In real
it was
time.
a great kick out, great vision.
That was not the case. My favorite game of the tournament, probably was Cal Virginia Tech. A little double overtime.
Didn't get to watch it.
Game
but
to kick it
looks
off.
Like it was good. Yeah. Double deep.
Andre Stojakovic.
I don't know any players on Cal.
You don't?
Or Virginia Tech. No.
Peja Stojakovic's son, kind
That's
of a
cool.
baller. Put up big numbers in that game. Put up big numbers in the Stanford loss as well. Just couldn't get it done. I think he had like 30 plus in the Stanford game. But it was a Tuesday night, so some of the tournaments hadn't even started yet. A lot of not great games, and
Yeah.
that was a really fun one to watch down to the wire and through the overtimes. And then Cal got it done. So that was probably my favorite. Not one of the tournaments I tuned in to a ton. I definitely saw more of some other tournaments. So that may be why that's my favorite game. But
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of great. I do want to keep saying, like, this is a down ACC. The 7th ranked team in the ACC, Stanford, is a quad 3 opponent.
that's crazy.
Yeah,
That is
they're
tough.
just extremely down. So, like, maybe we were a little wild picking at Georgia Tech as a a dark horse, but you
I
know.
feel like Georgia Tech, talking about their season as a whole, they lost a ton of production to injuries,
Mhm.
and this was a year they really could have taken advantage of it down ACC. They easily could have been that 4 seed over Wake Forest.
Yeah, they lost
Um,
3 guys to season-ending injuries. They definitely could have been up here in the ACC.
So I feel bad for them about that. Obviously, who really knows what would have happened, but it definitely seemed like they missed a big opportunity there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I pulled up on my phone. I wanted to make sure I had it right. For the Clemson Tigers, I currently hold a ticket, 4 units at plus 10,000 odds for the Tigers to win the national championship.
For Clemson,
Yes, so we're hoping
Go
for,
Tigers.
We're hoping for a deep run for them. That would
I assume you will not be holding that to the end. As soon as they get like Elite 80 cashing out.
I wish I could cash out in this app.
Oh,
Unlucky.
that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, I guess
I will
you.
be hedging at some point.
Yeah, huge Clemson fan then. All right.
Excuse me. Well, we can talk about the Big East real quick. With the Big East, oh my gosh.
I don't
Yeah, the
know
Big East.
that I watched
Yeah,
any
Big
Big East
East.
basketball, so y'all got this. If you
I-
say something that sparks a memory, I'll jump in.
Some good games. Some St. John's isn't winning the whole thing over Creighton. That game was close for a while. St. John's kind of pulled away in the second. I think Creighton ran out of gas. Creighton DePaul was a good game, 2 overtimes, I
Mhm.
believe. Creighton was down big in that game. I'm a big Creighton fan. Mentioned him already earlier on the podcast, but me and my boy Jackson Carter, we make a bracket every year, and we have Creighton win the whole thing, regardless of what seed they are or how good they are. That bracket, it's hold a special place in my heart. Ryan Kalkburn is a good player, but what Rick Pitino's done at St. John's, that's really what I wanted to talk about and why I wanted to talk about this conference tournament is, I mean, it's year 2,
Mhm.
their first Big East title since 2000. Really turned that program around. The Big East tournament has a great environment in Madison Square Garden. People
Yeah.
show up.
It's crazy.
They're loud.
It's
It
super special.
makes it one of the more fun tournaments to watch, honestly, in my opinion. I enjoyed seeing Creighton
And
beat
you got
UConn.
You got Gus Johnson on the call.
That-
Too.
Dude, I did not know I needed Gus Johnson
It
calling
is-
basketball games.
Gus
until
Johnson,
I turned the
I'm
TV
ready
on.
for him. He does baseball too, right? He's done baseball in the past for Fox.
I don't know about that,
I
but if
do not
so,
know about
I
that.
feel like I don't know.
he would
I'll-
make a baseball game more interesting.
Yeah, Matt. I
for
mean,
sure.
yeah, the
he makes
environment.
anything more interesting.
The environment in Madison Square Gardens is awesome. We were watching it, and Harris looks at me. He goes, "So, like, what's so great about like Madison Square Gardens?" And I was just like, "It's just like
Look and watch.
The Mecca.
it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, it's literally like the arena. Like
LeBron doesn't turn up in Madison Square Garden every time for no reason.
exactly.
Mhm.
Like I don't really know how to explain it other than just like it's Madison Square Gardens. So I don't know.
It's just home to some of the most historic moments
Yeah.
in sports history. The biggest fights, UFC boxing. Steph Curry broke the 3-point record in that building.
Big concerts, iconic concerts.
Jordan's final game in the Garden is the double nickel game where he scores 55 points.
Kimba Walker.
Kimba
Cardiac
Walker,
Kimba in
Cardiac
that building.
Kimba.
Yeah. Was that at UConn?
the-
right? He was.
the Chris Chioza buzzer beater over Wisconsin was in that building.
Legend, Gator legend, Chris Gio.
Yeah, the Garden. While they haven't had the greatest sports teams, the Rangers have been good. But the Knicks maybe not so much. It's just the Mecca.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I do want to give some credit to Creighton. They played very well. Obviously beating UConn. That was pretty cool.
Did
to
you see the
see.
ending of that game?
Yeah, that was
Jemiah Neal throws it down, and Hassan Diarra comes ready to throw hands.
a
Did they go?
Aggie legend Hassan Diarra, I might add. Sad he had to transfer, but he also has since won 2 national championships since transferring, so can't be too mad.
yeah.
Was it Creighton that went 3-0 against UConn this year?
No, because Dan
Who was-
Hurley finally won at Creighton and did the whole thing of like
okay,
showing his
okay.
rings and
Yeah.
shushing the crowd, and then gets pissy when
But so they
Creighton
had beat.
throws
They
down
were
a late
undef-
game dunk.
So did they go 2-1 against UConn?
2-1.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, personally, I don't know what Dan Hurley's on. You're going to show up the Creighton crowd. They're going to show up you after they return the favor
Yep.
and beat you. But it was a fun tournament. I honestly feel like we made a mistake not talking about it in our previews because it really is a very important and very fun basketball conference.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
Apologize for that. But anything else before we end this episode and turn it right back around and make
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bracket?
I mean, yeah. No, that's about it. We've been going for a little over an hour, or almost an hour, and it's
Wow.
9:30 now. So we'll probably start our next show at about 10. And
Yeah, you just hit stop record right now.
no. We have to give context. I really think this next show is gonna take 2 hours.
I'm going to have a
Good.
blast doing it.
Yeah.
Y'all may turn us off after 20 minutes if you even get that far.
I'm
But-
actually. I told them before, I was like, I can't really focus on this first show because my brain is like worrying thinking about the second show. I think that I locked in. I'd say I locked in,
You did a good job.
but I'm really excited for this next show. So yeah, that's all I can think of.
I think we did a great job. I think we were talking about how we felt like the flow might be an issue. I think third episode in, our flow was very, very good in this
Yeah,
episode.
We
So
cooked.
good performance, boys.
we'll ignore the. I'll transfer.
All right.
I'll transfer the JP bump.
Well, we're gonna end this show and we're gonna start our next show. So
See you guys.
thank y'all.